Okay, so welcome to everyone, and our topic today is appreciative mind. And this subject came up in particular because I was recently translating a class from one of Dadi Janki actually. So if you don't mind, just one moment. I think the doorbell's just rung. So there we go. So Dadi Janki, there's a very beautiful video of her sharing the story of her life, and it's only in Hindi. So I was in the process of translating that because I found it to be what was really amazing was in fact her energy of appreciation. And because I know that she's had uh, a life that has been wonderful, but at the same time it's also a life that where she's been through many difficulties, and she could just as easily have been full of criticism or bitterness for this and complained, why did that happen? But in fact, that was not at all her energy. She was able to appreciate the things that she'd learned, the things that she had the opportunity for, the people that were in her life, and so many things. And so, as I was listening to that, I began to think, okay, so in my life, yes, there've been also, like, I think for most people, there've been various ups and downs and difficult moments and traumatic moments and so on. But what would it be like just to go through those moments that were little moments that had a big impact on me? And just thinking again about maybe as a child, walking or going somewhere with my father, for example, and just thinking, oh, yes, that's what I remember, holding his hand and just feeling, enjoying being in his company. And just thinking about that, or thinking about having been, spent some of my school in the mountains and having been to going for many walks all the time in nature, and just remembering those specific moments with the details. Um, Thinking about that helped me to, in a sense, come through the thinking about certain other situations which maybe also happened, and to not be stuck in that, and so it was very interesting to notice the energy of appreciation versus the energy of criticism. And and so when we have the energy of appreciation, then the mind is filled with a contentment, which is which is not limited to what's happening now, what should be happening, what isn't happening, but it's a contentment and a gratitude for what I've experienced, for what I've received. And maybe what comes up in the heart are the blessings for the people who were there in that moment, and also for my own life, that sense of gratitude for what I've received in my life, in that specific, very detailed moments. And I think I find that that's actually a very beautiful exercise and very empowering to bring like a flood of positive energy, uplifting energy. And so not going into the details of what went wrong and what should have been different and could have been, but actually to focus on what was beautiful, because there will always have been beautiful moments, even if there were little things. But if I'm remembering them with that feeling of contentment, then even if it was an instant, stroking a cat, or, I don't know, whatever it is that for you was a moment of pleasure in a sense, but more than pleasure, because pleasure can sometimes be limited to physical sensation, but something that I think that gave a sense of fulfillment, a spiritual, a contentment rather, which takes us beyond the physical sensations. And so the energy of appreciation brings that contentment and that gratitude and the blessings. And of course, the energy of criticism, or the energy of confusion and questioning and complaints, tends to bring bitterness and the sense of scarcity, the sense of having missed out, of having lost, of the sense of regret in a sense. And of course, all of that then leads to jealousy and competition and comparison and all of those very draining and heavy states of consciousness. And so I find that it's a very powerful exercise to do. So just very simply re-emerging moments in my life, either recent, today, yesterday, last year, or a long time ago, just re-emerging them and in a sense bringing them up, not in a nostalgic sense, so not wishing that you could have that again, not with that. So that's a completely different energy. But just noticing, connecting, wow, that's what I experienced. I had that amazing experience. And so that sense of having had the opportunity to, and whatever it was, the opportunity to learn how to ride a bike when I was little, which has been something that has been with me throughout my life and has given me great joy. And so I just think, oh yes, so I learned how to ride a bike, and I feel so grateful that I did that. And so just that energy in contrast, it brings me to, it uplifts me in a certain way. And so it's like drop by drop, just like drop by drop when I think about something that someone said or did, or something that should have happened and didn't happen, something I should have got and didn't get. Drop by drop, it kind of erodes my contentment and eats away at my sense of fulfillment and sweetness. And so in the same way, we have the ability to remember, and so it's very good to use that in a way that's empowering. I think that the appreciation, or we're able to use this energy of appreciation in a sense once we've accepted something. So it's almost like I see the scale of going from, in a sense, one end of the spectrum, which is being antagonistic, or being against, being opposed to something, and on the other side, that sense of gratitude. So two extremes here. So maybe I move away from being antagonistic to maybe my past, or maybe a person who was there in my life, or even in this present moment. And maybe I come to the place where I'm just not considering, so I'm ignoring. So I'm not antagonistic, but I'm not giving value. I'm not I'm not taking into consideration. No. And then I think the next step is the acceptance. So I accept whether it's the person or the event or the past or whatever it might be, the suffering even. So I accept that it happened, that it existed, that this is there. And I listen to that. So I listen to what is the message. And then I begin to recognize its value. And then I can appreciate. So I can appreciate what I learned, or I can appreciate the qualities of that person. I can appreciate how I was and how I am. And that's what then brings that sense of gratitude. So it's a little bit like moving through some of those conditions. And I think before appreciating, there is this whole aspect of accepting. And so I can appreciate. So when I've moved through acceptance, then I can accept that there were many unfair or unpleasant things that might have happened in my life or in the world. And I recognize that there were also many, many beautiful and precious things that happened. And so those little moments of big significance. And the thing is that if I don't accept the pain and the suffering, just even the fact that it happened, just that, then I don't have the energy available to use to appreciate, because all of my energy, because it's very, very draining, resisting and fighting, it shouldn't have happened, why did it happen? The blame game, which is very, very draining. And all the consequences of that, in terms of how we consider ourselves, that I'm no good, obviously I wasn't worthy, and it's unfair, and I have to fight back, and so many, many things. The energy can be used up very, very quickly in that state of antagonism, basically. And so to be able to accept that, come to an acceptance, and very often there are things that we can't change, so I can't change my past. I can't change another person, how they are, or what they said, or what they say now. But what I can do is to choose how I want to be. And that's an amazingly powerful thing. And I think that appreciation comes when, and thinking about the appreciation for the self in this particular case, is when I consider my story worth thinking about or worth considering. So that's when I will begin to go and look back maybe at those moments, like what were the moments, for example, when I went to school, maybe the best thing about it was the walk there, or the bike ride there, or the bus ride, or whatever it was. Maybe that was maybe the best moment was when I came out of the gate, but what was that moment? What did it give me? What did it bring me? And so appreciating my story, thinking that my story is worth thinking about. And I remember for a long time, I thought that everyone else had a much more interesting story than mine, and so I used to feel quite ashamed of, I didn't want to tell everyone what my story was, thinking that, well, it was either, at best, it was not interesting, and at worst, it was something to be ashamed about, And so, even things like having parents from different countries, and that kind of thing, which for one reason or another, I came to believe that it was uninteresting. And then when, of course, began to share my story, and I think it happens so often is that maybe we know people for a long time, and it happened to me recently that there was someone who I've known for maybe about 15 years, and they recently shared with me a story, a couple of their stories of their life, and and it was amazing really to hear what they went through and how they came through it, and what happened to them, and how they are now, how much they've changed from one stage to another. And I think this is the case with every single person, that everyone has a story to tell, you know. And this is the appreciation that we can have for each other when we appreciate our own story, you know. And so it's this, when I started to share it, I thought, oh well, maybe it is something, it's time for me to look at my own story in a different way, you know. And so that was very freeing and very refreshing. And I think that appreciation is really like giving value to something, you know. But it's like I consider it worthy of my energy and my attention, worthy of my inquiry, you know, worthy of my vision, to that now, as we know, publicity is doing everything to get our attention. You know, that's what publicity and marketing does, is that it wants your attention, because your attention is very, very valuable. What you give value to is valuable for people to know, you know, and especially if they want to then make you give value to something that you may or may not actually value. And so, of course, that's all the manipulation that there is within the world today. But the energy of appreciation is when I consider something to be worthy of my energy and attention. And so it's recognizing the that being or the time, the situation, for who they are, and looking to see the beauty of them. You know? And I think it's interesting and important also to ask the self, what is my appreciation based on? You know, is it based on something that will then kind of dry up very quickly if something changes about the person? You know, so am I appreciating someone because of their looks, for example? You know, how beautiful they are, and then maybe if I see them again where they're not that beautiful anymore for whatever reason, then I don't appreciate them anymore. And of course, that's a very sort of limited example, but it is important to check, what am I appreciating? You know, that if I consider something to be worthy of my attention and consideration, what is that based on? You know, is it based on what they've done for me? Is it based on what their qualifications are, or what they look like, what they do, what their position is? Or is it just very simply the most basic, the most, in a sense, clean and pure appreciation is of you as a being, you know, you as a child of God, you know, you as a being of light, you know, as a soul, you as the one who has been on a long, long journey, you as a traveler, you as someone who has undoubtedly been through a whole lot of incredible situations, you know, and difficulties and beautiful things. And so in a sense that usually we appreciate things based on maybe something that we're talking about, something that we're doing together, and therefore when we work together, I appreciate your skills, I appreciate your manners, your way of being, your way of dealing with something. And I think that's all very valid, you know. But I need to check what's even deeper than that, you know. What's the foundation of my appreciation of you? So that even if you make many mistakes or you're not skilled at all in something, and can I still appreciate you? You know, and I think again, this comes, this ability comes when I learn how to appreciate myself, um, irrespective of my capabilities, you know, irrespective of my qualifications or lack of them, of my ability to look good, you know, in front of other people or look bad or whatever. And so what am I appreciating? And that's the big question, is that there is something very beautiful and very valuable that I can appreciate irrespective of my story, you know, of what happened or didn't happen. And so, in a sense, starting off with that, you know, and then beginning to appreciate my story, and from my story begin to get an idea of who I am, you know, behind the story. So I don't know if anyone has something that you'd like to share, just from, you know, your thoughts on what is an appreciative mind and how we can use that energy to empower ourselves and keep us, in a sense, in that state of contentment and gratitude, rather than getting stuck in a rut of self-pity or criticism and so on. So Wadsi, please go ahead.
Hi, Radha. I came. Sorry, I'm so there's a lot of echo.
Okay, no problem.
I came to this realization with my depression, that it was actually a reason for me to be very grateful, because I learned to stop. You know, I was like this train that kept going, you know, the strong woman who kept going. And I'm so grateful that I had this major breakdown, because it gave me a chance to smell the roses and appreciate the world and put more time into things like meditation, and giving back to myself, and not so much giving to the world and depleting myself. So this is this is one thing that I came to realize. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I appreciate a lot. You know, you suggested this exercise to think about something that you really appreciated. For example, when I was in holidays with my father in a river, and he catched me and played, I really appreciated it a lot. And then actually, when I go to the sea, for example, or to the swimming pool, I don't know, in somewhere, when I am relaxed and I see the nature, and I appreciate it a lot, because I am really thanks to God to be alive. This is, but now with this exercise, I am thinking a bit more about really what is really what I really appreciate. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll do this.
Hello. First of all, my thanks for this Wednesday afternoon classes. It is really something to look out for every week, amidst of the week. 1 hour nourishment together, and mostly with sisters. So I really like it. It's a kind of small, cozy, in deep class. Two things that came to mind. It's very an accurate topic. And one thing was about acceptance. Sometimes, you know, acceptance is not really there because the situation is very unacceptable. And what is helping here to come to that acceptance and therefore the appreciation is the question, what is it learning me? What have I learned from this person which is not so nice, or from the situation which has been very hard? And usually when I think about that question, what have I learned? What has it learned to me? There is somehow some kind of quality that comes up that has been given to me through that hard time. And that makes it easier to accept it, and therefore also appreciation comes much easier on top. Another thing that came up is a very practical thing that I learned in one of our spiritual universities, is the appreciation journal, which is making each night before going to sleep 5 things that I'm appreciating for. It can be really something simple, from the food that I've been eating or from the meditation class that I've been having to something else. But when we do that, and when I have done that, it gives the mind another direction, and my mind is how do you say it? My mind is very more it sees much easier the appreciation than the negativity in situations. So I thought I'd share it with the group.
Thank you. Yes, that's a very beautiful exercise to do, actually, is just to get into the swing of appreciating. In fact, I remember we did that for a few days, actually, with a few people that I was staying with, that every evening we would say 3 things about each other that we appreciated about each other. And it's not always that easy to think about it in the beginning, especially, but when you get into the rhythm of it, it's actually very beautiful, and you get to know the other person in a different way. So, and of course, you can also do it on your own, like Aldous has just described, to appreciate 5 things from your day. Thank you. Great. Anything else? Anyone else? And we can have a meditation. And actually, I wanted to read a piece by Dadi Janki, and it's about. It's called knowledge. So I will read it, and then you can see the connection, in case whatever connection that that you might make with this piece, with this subject. So if I am truly a knowledgeable soul, I will be skillful in the things of the spirit. I will be centered successfully in my spiritual identity. I will be free from the influence of my past. There will only be peace and happiness within. True knowledge is not a question of intellectual understanding alone. It is for incorporating into my daily life in order to improve it. My every thought, word, and action becomes naturally aligned with the laws of the universe. All that has ever gone wrong begins to be put right. And so I see that as not necessarily some situation, maybe also it literally gets put right, but in a sense it's put right in my mind, that it doesn't become an Achilles heel for me. It doesn't hold me back. No. That even if something did happen and something wrong happened that was damaging, but it doesn't continue to damage me. No. And so in that sense, all that has gone wrong begins to be put right. This knowing protects me from small-minded ways of seeing or thinking of others. It enables me to feel love for everyone, but without losing energy by entering into a lot of matters with others. This is the duty of those who have understood the self in depth. Intellectual arrogance is the sign that I have not become truly knowledgeable. True knowledge puts me in touch with the sweetness of life and makes me equally sweet. And so I think this is very much a quality of appreciation, is that state where my mind is sweet, is filled with the contentment. And so it doesn't mean that everything's all wonderful and smooth and beautiful and easy and, a song and a dance. And so that it doesn't mean that, but it means that I'm putting myself in that position, that I'm refreshing and cleaning out my mind so that there's that sense of freshness, there's that sense of, in a sense of an openness, and which includes the learning, it includes the ability to see beyond what is going on in front of me. And so this putting right that which has gone wrong inside, from the inner space. So maybe we can have a meditation now, and what I want to suggest is that we'll start off the meditation by just think about one moment, recent or a long time ago, wherever you like, one moment, and it could be a little thing, that when you think about it, you feel that sense of contentment and gratitude. So think about something that when you bring that situation, that where it's about, you are the center of that story, you are there, something that you were doing or that was happening, but you were present. So something about you in your story that when you think about, you feel that sense of contentment and gratitude. So just bring that up right now in your mind. You don't need to share it with anyone, but just re-emerge one moment, maybe one of many, many, many moments, in, uncountable moments. Just to think about one of them. And as you emerge that in your awareness, just look at the details of that moment. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? Maybe you were alone. What were the elements of nature, if any, around you? To think about what feelings you might have had at that time and what feeling you have now. And just stay quite close to the essence of this moment. So without going into any tangents, without getting distracted or sidetracked, just stay in that sense of appreciation and the wonder of having had that opportunity, which maybe became and is a gift. And so something that right now, thinking about it, brings me the sense of contentment, fulfillment, gratitude. And so I take a deep breath and find a comfortable position inside and outside. And I remember that whatever is happening in the world out there, I am looking from inside, and my position inside will determine what I see and how I see it. And so I position myself in the seat of appreciation. And the energy of appreciation flows into my mind, seeing the beauty, seeing what works, seeing the invisible little things that have a big meaning. Like a secret message just for me that I delight in as I recognize it. As I begin to notice the immense value of that moment, and therefore of the self. Of the others, and of the world around me. No matter what is going wrong in the world today, at the very heart, at the essence of each being, there is something that is very valuable. And that is the being itself. The living, conscient energy of light and peace. And when I interact with matter or with nature, I can still maintain that sense of appreciation, the welcome of the sea, or the wind, or the sun, or the grass, the trees. And I exchange and share the living energy of gratitude, of appreciating the existence and the presence. And it is then that I remember and think about the supreme energy, that one being who is constantly like the spiritual sun, radiating, uplifting energy, seeing the beauty in those that the world considers hopeless, considering those that have lost everything, considering each one as a child, child of God. And I connect my mind with the mind of that being. And the current of upliftment ignites the light within. And I see myself in a different way. I see that line of gold, almost invisible in the rock. I notice the qualities even in those who might have hurt me. I see the meaning in difficult situations. I see my strength even when it's been invisible for a long time. I see through the darkness and I notice that powerful light of my being. And I do the same for others. I'm not deceived by anyone's darkness because I know that the light is there. And for a few moments, I continue to be inside, in this position of appreciation, of giving consideration and value. Based on the truth of my being, of your being. I stay connected to the supreme energy whose love and peace helps to refresh my mind. I stay in this quiet, peaceful place inside. And then I take a deep breath. And I begin to feel my physical energy, the body. And I let the energy of my mind flow into the body, into every cell. And I can sense the contentment and the gratitude for this body that has been my home for all these years. And as I look through these eyes, I begin to notice my physical surroundings. And I can share the energy of blessings, of gratitude for my physical surroundings. Thank you.